Ah dear, a little cautionary tale, this one. Now, as most of you will know, this is the Philips N2400 stereo cassette recorder. It's a rather unusual one because it's the first model that Philips made that was stereo and had a built-in amplifier. This used the old AD161162 germanium transistors, and very basic indeed. I suppose you can't blame Philips really, because they didn't know whether there'd be a market for such a thing. They were already making some very good reel-to-reel equipment after all, so perhaps just putting a toe in the water to see what it would do. Very basic. Just got volume, balance, bass, treble, record level. A little VU meter up here works only during recording, and there's only the one of them you'll notice. And then up here, the mechanics used on their old EL3302 model have been modified to give you these push buttons, and you've got a eject and a pause button as well. And on the back, two 5-pin DIN plugs, one for a ceramic record deck and the other one for a microphone or radio or whatever. More sensitive, that one, and it definitely does matter which one you plug them into, let me put it that way. Then on the back as well, the 2-pin DIN speaker jacks. On an earlier machine you'd find that there were two ways you could insert the plug, so you could either use a 4 or an 8 ohm speaker with them. Reel-to-reel machines were like that too in some cases, and there you've got your voltage selector down there. The frequency doesn't matter because it's driven by a little DC motor. Now, about the same time the 2401 was made, that was an auto changer one, looking very much like this, had a definite family likeness, but only had volume, balance, tone and record level. And there was one of those for sale on eBay not long ago. More on that later. Then a bit later on still, you got the 2405 stereo, and this again, volume, balance, tone and recording. Little level gauge like the 2400. Same mechanicals again. Same connections on the back. Only about half the power output though. The 2400 enjoyed quite a long production run. The first, as far as I understand it, were made round about 1968. Might have been late 67. And the last sometime in 74. These came in about 72. Both of these models eventually disappeared in favour of this, the N2407, which had a dynamic noise limiter on there, an early form of Dolby, if you like, to get rid of the tape hiss, and it works very well. It's actually better than Dolby because it doesn't tend to make the tape sound muffled when it's switched on. It only works as it needs to. 5-pin DIN plugs for your microphones, or you can plug a stereo mic into that one. Twin VU meters that work both during recording and playback. Separate recording level controls for each channel, separate volume controls for each channel, and then bass and treble. You've also got normal and special tape. Now, this is all very ancient stuff now, but comparing two ordinary cassette tapes, this is a special chromium dioxide one, and you can see there's a little hole beside the knockout tab. That hole isn't present here. The knockout tab has been knocked out on this one as it's a pre-recorded tape, but you see there's no little hole, and that was how it knew what type of tape had been selected. When you put this one in, it didn't press the little arm down in the cassette compartment, so it knew that it was on the special tape setting. You can play the special tape on this one, but you can't record on it very well. It won't have it. The bias is wrong. It just won't. It won't wear it. Oh dear. Now the auto changer also appeared as a partner for this one, 2408. I actually have one of those, and once again, seems to have been quite successful. But all these years later on, you don't see too many of these things around, and when you do, they're mostly not in very good working order, shall I say. So I mean, even this has its little ways from time to time, because it's old. I'm afraid. But the 2408 is certainly a temperamental beast when it wants to be. Now, I was lucky years ago. I knew an old boy who ran an electrical shop, and he'd been in business for years. And I mean years. He remembered selling the old sausage lamp heaters, the first electric heaters they had, with 4 big bulbs glowing away inside that were, well, like a sausage to look at. But what he didn't like doing was fiddling around with anything to do with radios or tape recorders, so if he ever had an inquiry about one of those, and he thought it was possibly doable by yours truly, it used to be slung my way, and because he had all the right connections and everything, if you'll pardon the expression, connections, electrical shop, he used to be able to get me all the bits I'd needed, and away we went, and the thing went back to the customer in working order, and everyone was happy. But in 1992, the poor old boy had a stroke and decided to retire. And although I was invited over there and told, if you see anything to do with, radios, tape recorders, your old Hoover, whatever, have it by all means. The old boy himself told me that. And I came away with a load of parts. Of course, that was 20 years ago. So we're a bit low on bits now, let me put it that way. Of course, consumables like drive belts and playheads and things, you can still get those. But anything specific, so to speak, any mechanical bit, can be a bit of a swine to get hold of, let me put it that way. And this is where the cautionary tale starts. One of my subscribers has recently got from eBay his holy grail in the form of one of these. It came from the Isle of Man. Remember me saying the 2401 for sale on eBay as well? Well, I had a look at that, and I have to say I was tempted, but not for £40 I wasn't, because it said 4 parts or not working. Oh, yeah, right. Chances are it'll be full of gunged up belts and all the mechanics will be shot. And you remember what I said about the availability of spares too, especially for such a rare bird as that one. It was driven by 2 little AC motors. So if they've gone, where are you going to get another one of them? Anyway, this chap, he paid £39.99, £40 for this N2400, plus the postage. I've got an idea it was the same seller. I think it was anyway. Anyway, when it came, it's in a hell of a state. The metal's coming off the top. Well, that could all be stuck back. But apparently it's very battered as well. Some of the rubber parts are beginning to give up the ghost, including the pinch roller. You don't often see them go to goo. Drive belts, yes, but tyres and pinch rollers, they tended to be all right. They did. I won't say they were always all right, because they weren't, but so yeah. But aren't there some bloody charlatans out there? They see stuff like this and the pound signs light up in their eyes, or the dollar signs. I mean, £40 would be $70 if you're in the States for what is basically a non-functional wreck. I don't know. It makes you sick, doesn't it? So, yeah, I don't know quite how he'll get on with that one, I'm sure, but yeah, no doubt something could be done about it. Another thing is that in our local chaff converters, I mean cash converters, they've got one of these. Now, This is a boombox from the 80s, made by Philips. You sometimes see them badged as a Pi, and if they were made in America, and I know some of them were, it would have been a Magnavox. Now, this one, as you see, looks like it left the factory in Austria only last week. And it works like it left the factory in Austria only last week too. In the chav converter, they have one of these. Same machine, same model, but it's all scratched to bits on top. The dust cap on this speaker's been pushed in. This has gone to sepia, sort of sepia gungy colour. I don't doubt that the red Leicester cheese gears in there are all shot, so the tape deck probably doesn't work. And they want £20 for it. Absolutely crazy. You might get that, you might get more than that for this one that you're looking at. But I don't know about that wreck that's in the chav converter. God dear, aren't there some piss-taking buggers out there these days? Anyway, so having got that off my chest, as I say, just be careful out there if you are getting stuff from eBay, because, you know, it's not possible to look at it before you buy it, is it? That's another thing to look at. So most people are all right on there. You know, I've never had any trouble myself, touch wood. But you do get the odd one that will take the piss, don't you? You know. Yep. Oh well. See you soon.